feel tensions rising. I hear voices in my head. They counsel me, they understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me things I'll do to you. They talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. They talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me.
What's up, YouTubers? It's HarpyHunter89 coming at you from the Duelist Den, and it is finally October, the month that contains my favorite holiday of the year, Halloween, because it is the one holiday of the year where you can do pretty much anything and nobody will judge you for it. Now, because of this Halloween season, the voices in my head have told me to do a special edition Archetype breakdown over the Ghostricks. Now, the Ghostricks are the only archetype Konami has ever created to be based around a specific holiday. And their monsters are idealized around the scariest and spookiest and creepiest mythological creatures and beings in existence. The lore for the Ghostricks is that they hang around this one town in varying locations, just playing tricks and pranks on the unsuspecting villagers and tourists that come to the town, and that to me proves that they are true Halloween fanatics. Now, for the cards themselves, the monsters are broken down into 3 different types, and each type is correspondent to the level of the monster. The level 1s and rank 1s are fiends, the level and rank 2s are spellcasters, and the level and rank 3s are zombies. The only exception being Ghostrick Angel of Mischief, which is a rank 4 fairy type. Their spells are based around the locations that they hang around, and their traps are the things that they do. The only exception to the traps is Ghostrick Night, which is the time that they come out, which is, of course, nighttime. Now, all the Ghostricks are dark attribute, and the main deck monsters share 2 different effects. The first being that you cannot summon it or normal summon it unless you control another Ghostrick. The second effect is that once per turn you can flip it face down into defense position. The Ghostricks are very, very tricky because at the beginning of the duel, real early duel, your opponent doesn't really know what they're getting into. And that to me just shows that they are true pranksters. So with that being said, let's jump right into the breakdown. First up is Ghostrick Mary. This monster has 100 attack and 1600 defense. And its effect states that when you take damage, you discard this card from your hand to special summon a Ghostrick monster from your deck in face down defense position, but you can only use the effect once per turn. Now, Ghostrick Mary is, of course, based off of the lore of Bloody Mary. Now, if you have lived under a rock your whole life and don't know what Bloody Mary is simple. You go into your bathroom, lock the door, light 3 candles, you look into the mirror, you turn the lights off, you say Bloody Mary 3 times, and Bloody Mary will come out of the mirror and try to kill you. Now, in some versions of the lore, she only kills the babies and children. In other versions of the lore, she actually kills anyone who is looking into the mirror or is in the room, or sometimes even specifically the person who says Bloody Mary 3 times. That makes her especially scary and creepy. I love the artwork on this card. It's got Bloody Mary trapped in a vanity mirror. It's very, very wicked. As far as purposes in the deck, most Ghostricks, you don't really see this card a lot. At least I've never seen it a lot in Ghostricks. But it does allow you to search out your deck. It is a great search engine for your deck, and I would suggest running it in a Ghostrick deck. Next up is Ghostrick Specter. This monster has 600 attack and 0 defense, and its effect states that when a Ghostrick monster is destroyed either by a card effect or by battle with an opponent's attacking monster and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it from your hand in face down defense, and if you do, draw a card. I would not suggest running it in a deck because, other than getting one draw off it, it's not very useful. It's a 1-for-1. It doesn't end the battle phase. Also, it has to be sent to the graveyard to get its effect, or the destroyed monster has to be sent to the graveyard for it to get its effect off. Now, Specter is, of course, based off of just, your standard garden variety ghost. So there's really no big lore about what it's based off of. It's just a ghost. But the artwork is pretty awesome on the card. It's a ghost with little clawed feet. Looks like it's kind of stitched together like a Halloween costume. And it's got a tongue sticking out. It's pretty cool. Ghostrick Lantern is next up on the list. Ghostrick Lantern has 800 attack and 0 defense, and its effect states that when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack or when a Ghostrick monster you control is targeted for an attack, you negate the attack, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand and face down defense. Now, this does stop one single attack. It doesn't end the battle phase like Swift Scarecrow or Battle Fader. It just stops that one attack and gives you an additional monster on the field. Now, so far, the level 1 Ghostricks, the hand trap Ghostricks, as they're usually called, or that's what I usually call them anyway, are all seeming pretty lame with the exception of Ghostrick Mary, which is, a searcher. But still, it is a pretty decent card you could use because it does give you an extra monster on the field. And if your opponent hasn't swarmed the field yet, then it is pretty useful to get an additional blocker out there on the field. Now, Ghostrick Lantern is, of course, based off of a jack-o'-lantern. Now, jack-o'-lanterns aren't exactly mythical creatures or beings. Their lore behind jack-o'-lanterns is that if you put jack-o'-lanterns outside your house on Halloween or All Hallows Eve night, it'll keep the evil spirits away. So that's pretty cool to see kind of a flip on it, considering that this is, an evil card. But the artwork is pretty awesome. He looks like he has a torn cloak on. He's holding a little lantern out in front of him. He's got that glowing smiley face inside his mouth. He's got this wicked wizard hat on. The artwork's pretty cool. I love the card. It's not one of the creepiest cards in existence, but it is, a creepy little trickster. And I just love the artwork on this card. Jack Frost. Jack Frost never made sense to me being in Ghostricks, being the character of Jack Frost is more of a Christmas / winter themed character. Now, he was the harbinger of winter. He whistled, caused a blizzard. He always seemed, more Christmas, wintry theme, like December based. So what he's doing with Ghostricks, in the Halloween and fall season, I don't know. Now, there are variations of Jack Frost where he is this evil, kind of fucked up snowman, but, I've always felt that, that was more of a modernization of the character and not true to the roots of the character of Jack Frost. But, that could be the original lore around him, and, I don't know. But, like I said, the Jack Frost I grew up with, was, the harbinger of winter. He was a nice guy. But for now, let's just run with the fact that he is a creepy guy. We'll go with that variation. The card stats. He has 800 attack, 100 defense. And his effect states that when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you change that monster to face down defense. And if you do, special summon this card from your hand and face down defense. Now, this is very similar to Ghostrick Lantern in that when it stops your opponent's monster from attacking and gives you another Ghostrick on the field. Now, in my opinion, I feel that Lantern will probably be the better option because Lantern doesn't have to be a direct attack in order for it to use his effect. It can be either a direct attack or an attack on a Ghostrick. But that being said, a lot of the Ghostrick cards, allow your opponent to attack you directly, so Lantern could be good as well. And a lot of Ghostricks require your opponent's monster to be in face-down defense. So I guess it really all depends on how you're running your deck, or you can run both in the deck. I guess that will be a good way of doing it. But, personally, I feel Lantern will be the better of the options. The first of these monsters is Dullahan. It is a rank 1 with 1000 attack and 0 defense. It requires 2 level 1 monsters to summon, and its effect states that it gains 200 attack for each Ghostrick card you control, and once per turn during either player's turn, you detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 face-up monster on the field and have its attack until the end of the turn. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 other Ghostrick card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. Now this is a really good card. It allows you to recycle your Gostricks. It does give itself a massive attack boost because it doesn't just require Ghostrick monsters. It can use any Ghostrick card, including the spells and traps. So it's real easy to get this card up to a decent attack. But let's go into the lore behind this card. A Dullahan is a dark creature who is pretty much like the Grim Reaper. He goes around and collecting the souls of people who are supposed to die. Now, a Dullahan does not have a head. It carries its head in its arms, and the head actually does not speak but once per night, and only to say the name of the person it is going to kill. Now, Dullahans, the way they do this is they go through your gate at your house, they go up to your front door, the head shouts the name, and then that person dies. Now, the most famous Dullahan in existence would be the Headless Horseman from the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. If you don't know what that is, I suggest you go rent the movie, read the book. It's a great legend. But this is honestly one of my favorite of the Ghostricks, just because I love the lore of the Headless Horseman and the whole idea of the Dullahan. Now we come to the level 2 Ghostricks, and the first up is Ghostrick Doll. Doll has 300 attack and 1200 defense, and its effect states when this card is flipped face up, during the end phase, change as many face-up monsters on the field as possible to face-down defense. Then you can special summon 1 Ghostrick from your deck in face-down defense whose level is less than or equal to the number of monsters flipped face-down by this effect. Now the downside to this is that the effect resolves during the end phase, so it is pretty slow, and you probably don't want to run it in your deck. Now, as for the lore behind this card, Ghostrick Doll is based off of your standard porcelain doll. Now, porcelain dolls in and of themselves do look kind of creepy, but they've never really been associated with dark myths or lore until more modern times, when you see them in a whole lot of horror films where the porcelain dolls come to life. I don't think Chucky was a porcelain doll, but it does kind of give a good reference to how creepy dolls can be. But there are several movies that use dolls or puppets as the main horror focus. And honestly, I've always found porcelain dolls kind of creepy because, you know, their eyes are always following you no matter where you are in the room. The next level 2 is Neko Masumi. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Now, this card has 400 attack and 900 defense, and the effect states when a level 4 or higher monster is normal or special summoned, change that monster to face down defense, but there must be another Ghostrick on the field, or specifically a Ghostrick monster on the field, to activate and to resolve this effect. Now this is a pretty good way to get one of your opponent's boss monsters out of the picture for a turn, so I would definitely suggest running this in your deck. Now, the lore behind this card was a little tricky to find. The best I could come up with was that it is a derivative of the Neko, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing incorrectly as well. But it is a cat-like yokai in Japanese mythology. Now, the cats in mythology, especially the black cats, which obviously, you know, this one has black fur, are associated with bad luck if one crosses your path. So my guess is that this is either based around that or, like I said, the yokai. So it could have 2 separate lores for this card, but it is a pretty good card, you know, to have in your deck. The lore behind it, you know, there are multiple things that it could be, so I can't say definitively which lore it is. Now we're on to Yukionna. Yukionna has 1000 attack and 800 defense, and her effect states that when this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can change the monster that destroyed it to face down defense, and if you do, it cannot change its battle position. Now, the only downside to this card is that Yukionna actually has to be sent to the graveyard in order to get her effect off. Now, Yukionna's effect does, in a way, mirror her lore. The lore behind Yukionna is that she is a winter spirit, and like Jack Frost, it doesn't make sense to me having a winter spirit in with the Ghostricks who are Halloween based, but let's just run with it. But like I said, she's a winter spirit, freezes people who are trapped in snowstorms. In some versions of the lore, she appears holding a child or a baby, and parents who have lost a child are susceptible to this one because they'll go up to her, they'll take the baby from her, trying to help keep the baby safe, and they're instantly frozen in place. In one version of Yukionna's lore, she actually attacks people's homes, and in another version, she takes on a succubus-like feature and drains people of their lifeblood by luring, unsuspecting men in with sex or sexual pleasures. Now, there is one other version of the lore that I find particularly interesting. It's that she lets a man go instead of killing him because of his appearance and youth, and she winds up marrying him later on the promise never to tell anyone. But later on, he tells his wife, who turns out to be Yukionna, and then she kills him. And then in another version of that same lore, she doesn't kill him for their children's sake. So that's an extremely interesting lore. The last of the level 2s is Ghostrick Witch. Ghostrick Witch has 1200 attack and 200 defense, and the effect states that once per turn you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls and change it to face-down defense position. That's really, not that great of an effect, so you don't see it used in Ghostrick decks all that much. And the lore behind Witch is, just kind of bland. It's, your garden variety witch, has a broomstick that she flies around on. She got your witch hat. She got some horns coming out of her hat. The artwork on this card is pretty cool because it looks like the child form of Dark Magician Girl is dressing up for Halloween. So it is kind of cute to see, an older card, in its childhood. And, I think that this is actually Dark Magician Girl, honestly. I mean, it's got the blonde hair, the facial features are similar. It could very well be Dark Magician Girl as a child. So it is kind of cool to see the artwork. The rank 2 Ghostrick is Succub Boss. Succub Boss has 1400 attack and 1200 defense. It requires 2 level 2 monsters to summon it. Its effect states that when you control another Ghostrick monster, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. Once per turn, you can detach one material from this card, then target one face-up monster on the field with attack less than or equal to the combined attack of all Ghostricks on the field and destroy it. And if you do, that monster zone cannot be used as long as you control a Ghostrick monster. So this is a great lockdown card. First of all, if you have 2 copies of this on the field, you've locked your opponent out from attacking. Furthermore, because you can run 3 of these in your deck, it is real easy to lock out your opponent from bringing any monsters out on the field with this effect, because this card does not have to stay face up on the field in order for the effect to be used. As long as you've got a Ghostrick on the field, then that monster zone cannot be used at all. So the more you use this effect, the more Ghostricks you put on your field, the easier it is that you're going to be able to stop your opponent from putting any monsters on the field, which is really good for Ghostricks. Now the lore. Succub Boss is actually a succubus. Now what a succubus is a female vampire that goes around luring horny men in with sexual favors and then draining their blood or life force into their own. Now the artwork on this card is pretty cool. It's got a vampire in kind of pajamas. It is a pretty cool artwork, and the card itself is just all around a great card. Starting off the level 3 lineup is Ghostrick Yeti. Yeti has 300 attack and 2000 defense. Now for a level 3, 2000 defense is a pretty damn good defense stat. The effect states that when this card is flipped face up, you can target one Ghostrick monster you control, and it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. So that's a pretty good card to have in your deck because it protects one of your Ghostricks, and it can protect, your Xyz monsters, which ideally is what you want to protect because you don't really want those getting off the field because those are your go-to cards. But for the lore around this, a Yeti is more commonly known as an abominable snowman. They are known to inhabit the regions of the Himalayas and northern regions of countries. And to me, they've always seemed like a docile race. You don't really hear about Yetis or their cousins Bigfoots, attacking people. People get scared of them, but people are always scared of what they don't know. And again, this is another more winter December themed card than it is an actual Halloween theme, at least in my opinion. So again, Konami has stuck another card into Gostricks that just doesn't make sense to be in them because of the theme of the deck. Jiangshi, and I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, is the next Ghostrick on the list. It has 400 attack and 1800 defense, and its effect states that when this card is flipped face up, you can add from your deck to your hand one Ghostrick monster whose level is less than or equal to the number of Ghostrick monsters you control, but you can only use the effect once per turn. So it would have to be, if you have 5 Ghostricks, it can be any Ghostrick in your deck. If you have this and another, it'd have to be a level 1 or a level 2. So it does give you a search, but it is also, in a way, limited to what it searches out. Now, a Jiangshi in Chinese myth is a hopping ghost, vampire, or zombie, usually dressed in official garment from the Qing dynasty. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's spelled Quing. If I am pronouncing it right, let me know. If I'm not, let me know, because I don't really know how to pronounce it. But what a Jiangshi is it's sort of like a succubus. Only with a succubus, it only goes after men. A Jiangshi goes around and sucks out the ki or life force of anyone. So it is sort of a vampire, but is also sort of a zombie, I guess you could say. So what it is specifically is really up to interpretation. But I think of it as more of a vampire because in the lore, it usually rests in a coffin or a cave during the day. So to me, it seems more like a vampire type creature than it does a zombie or ghost type creature. Wow, this guy kind of looks like a cartoony version of a Walking Dead zombie, doesn't he? Anyway, this is Ghostrick Ghoul. It has 1100 attack, 1300 defense. Its effect states that once per turn during your main phase 1, you can target one Ghostrick monster you control. Its attack becomes equal to the combined original attack of all Ghostrick monsters currently on the field until your opponent's next end phase, but if it does, only that monster can attack this turn. So it does give one of your Ghostricks a pretty good size attack boost. Unfortunately, it prevents all your other Ghostricks from attacking except for the monster that got the boost. So it is a pretty decent card. I don't think I would run it in my version of a Ghostrick deck if I ever built one, but it is a pretty decent card. And like I said earlier, this is the actual zombie of the Ghostricks, and it does look like a cartoon version of a Walking Dead zombie to me. Ghostrick Skeleton, the Grim Reaper of the deck, has 1100 attack points and 1200 defense points, and its effect states that when this card is flipped face up, banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down up to the number of Ghostrick monsters you control, and you can only use this effect of Skeleton once per turn. Now, like I said just a moment ago, Ghostrick Skeleton is based off of the Grim Reaper. Now, everybody should know what the Grim Reaper does, but if you don't, the Grim Reaper is the bringer of souls. He goes around and collecting the souls of people who died and brings them to the afterlife. Now, he's usually associated with bringing souls to the underworld, so he is the spooky version of the Angel of Death. And in some variations, the Grim Reaper is actually called the Angel of Death. So he is one of the oldest lores and more well-known lores among the Ghostricks. What the fuck is Jacob Black doing on my list? I'm Team Edward, damn it. Oh wait, that's Ghostrick Werewolf. Ghostrick Werewolf has 1400 attack and 1500 defense, and his effect states that when he is flipped face up, inflict 100 damage to your opponent for each set card on the field, but you can only use the effect once per turn. Now, obviously, no Halloween deck would be complete without a werewolf. And I love what they did with his name, Warwolf, sort of a play on werewolf. But this card is actually pretty decent because you can get a bunch of face down cards. Now, if all you have are 5 monsters each on the field face down, that's only 1000 damage. But at max, you could do up to 1900 damage off of Warwolf's effect. Granted, you won't get that much off very often, like maybe once in a blue moon. But still, it does deal direct damage. But because it only does 100 damage for each face down, I would not suggest running it in a deck. But, no Halloween themed deck would be complete without a werewolf.
The blonde waitresses take their trays, spin around and they cross the floor. They've got the moves, oh, hey, oh. You drop your drink, then they bring you more. All the school kids so sick of books, they like the punk and the metal band. When the buzzer rings, oh, hey, oh. They're walking like an Egyptian.
Sorry, had to play the song. It's a great song. But anyway, the next card on the list is Ghostrick Mummy. Ghostrick Mummy has 1500 attack and 0 defense, and its effect states that once per turn, you can normal summon an additional Ghostrick monster in addition to your normal summon or set, and you can only gain this effect once per turn. Also, you cannot special summon any monsters except dark monsters. Now, the lore around mummies is pretty simple. They are the reanimated corpses of Egyptian pharaohs or other important people in Egyptian culture who were mummified so they could pass on to the afterlife. Now, Egyptians, although they are the culture that is most noted for mummification, there are several other cultures around the world that mummified their leaders and important societal contributors as well, the Chinese being one of the most prominent out of the other cultures. But like I said, the Egyptians were the ones who were the most famous for it.
When the buzzer rings, oh, hey, oh. They're walking like an Egyptian.
It's alive. It's moving. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive.
It's Ghostrick Teen. Ghostrick Teen has 1600 attack points with 0 defense points, and the effect states when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can have 1 Ghostrick spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, and you can only use the effect of Steen once per turn. Now, Steen is a great way to search out your spell and trap cards that you need for your deck, and I would strongly recommend having it in any Ghostrick deck, as it does allow you to get those searches. Now, for the lore behind Frankenstein's monster, which is who Ghostrick Teen is based off of, the Frankenstein's monster was an attempt for Dr. Frankenstein to create actual life. Now, personally, if I want to create life, I go and get someone pregnant, but that's just me. Dr. Frankenstein decided to cobble together a bunch of old dead corpses and pump electricity into them to try to bring it to life. For more on Frankenstein's lore, I suggest watching the Frankenstein movie. The original one, the classic, is the best one in my opinion, but that's just me. For the rank 3 Ghostrick, we have Ghostrick Ali Khan. Ali Khan has 1800 attack and 1600 defense. It requires 2 level 3 monsters to summon, and the effect states that your opponent cannot target Ghostrick or face down defense position monsters for attacks except this one. And once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card and destroy a set card that your opponent controls. And when this card is sent to the graveyard, you target 1 Ghostrick card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Now, Ghostrick Ali Khan is the strongest of the main 3 Ghostrick monsters, and his lore is based around Dracula. Again, another cult classic horror film from the good old days. Now, Dracula is a vampire who went around seducing women and draining them of their life force, sort of like the male version of a succubus. And honestly, Dracula is one of my all-time favorite books and horror movies. And to have a deck based around Halloween, you kind of have to have a Dracula in there somewhere. The final Ghostrick monster is Angel of Mischief. Now with 2,000 attack and 2,500 defense, this is the strongest of the Ghostrick monsters. It requires 2 level 4 monsters to summon, and the effect states you can also Xyz summon it using a Ghostrick Xyz monster you control as a material, and the materials attached to that monster become materials on Angel of Mischief. And it also states that when this card has 10 materials attached to it, you win the duel. It also says that once per turn, you can detach 1 material to add 1 Ghostrick spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Also, once per turn, you can attach 1 Ghostrick card from your hand to this as a material. Now, what makes this card so powerful is that it doesn't have to be a Ghostrick monster you attach from your hand to this card. It can be any Ghostrick card, including the spells and traps. So as long as you have a Ghostrick card in your hand and ways of protecting the Angel of Mischief, it's real easy to get an auto win off of this card. Now for the lore that this card is based around, it is based off of the fallen angel mythology. Now I don't know why they made it a female angel, especially considering the fact that Lucifer or Satan is the most well-known of the fallen angels. I honestly think it should have been a guy, but hell, who knows? Lucifer could be a girl. You never know. So in essence, this card was pretty much based around Satan. Now we are on to the spells. Now, like I said earlier, at the beginning of the video, all of the Ghostrick spells are field spells and are the locations where you can find the Ghostricks. What I forgot to mention earlier is that all the spells share one similar effect, and that's that monsters cannot attack face down defense position monsters, but can attack directly if all monsters their opponent controls are face down defense position. But the Ghostrick field spells also have secondary effects. Now, Mansion is the home where the Ghostricks live, and its secondary effect is that all effect damage and battle damage inflicted by monsters other than Ghostrick monsters is halved. So this is a great way to keep your life points somewhat safe while you're building up your field. The second of the field spells is Ghostrick Museum. Now, Ghostrick Museum has 2 secondary effects. The first is that monsters you control except Ghostrick monsters cannot attack. And during the end phase, any monster that inflicted battle damage gets switched to face down defense position. Now, the Ghostricks, like I said, they live in the mansion, but they do like to go out and see the sights. So they do go and visit the museum every now and then, and they like to haunt the exhibits and scare the people who visit the museum. Now, and the museum is actually Mummy's primary place of residence. Now, after all the hard work of playing pranks and haunting and scaring the townsfolk and the tourists, the ghosts just like to unwind and enjoy the festivities. And where else would they go? Of course, the Halloween parade. Now, that's a pretty good idea. I kind of wish our town would have a Halloween parade. Don't you, Despot 000?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think a Halloween parade would be fun?
Yeah.
Yeah? You'd go to a Halloween parade, wouldn't you?
Yeah. With you.
With me? Man, I wish we had a Halloween parade. But anyway, Ghostrick Parade's second effect states that your opponent takes no damage, and when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can add 1 Ghostrick card from your deck to your hand. Now, it is a pretty good searcher. The downside is your opponent takes no damage. And considering the strongest boss monster out of the Ghostricks only has 2,000 attack, that's not really a great effect. So I would suggest, 1, maybe 2 at max of this card in a Ghostrick deck. Starting up the trap lineup is Ghostrick Break. Now, as I said before, the traps are what the Ghostricks do, and Ghostrick Break's effect states that when exactly 1 face-up Ghostrick you control, or Ghostrick monster you control, and no other cards is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, and sent to your graveyard, target 2 Ghostrick monsters in your graveyard with different names than the destroyed monster, and special them in face-down defense. Now, this card I would not run in my Ghostrick deck for 2 reasons. First of all, the effect states that only 1 Ghostrick that is face up has to be destroyed. Now, odds are your Ghostricks are not going to be face up during your opponent's turn, so that kind of takes out the battle part. Now, they might destroy one with a different card, but still the odds of that are pretty slim. The second reason is because it has to get sent to the graveyard. And these days, you have all sorts of things that banish stuff from the graveyard or prevent them from hitting the graveyard at all. So I wouldn't run this in a Ghostrick deck. But I do love the artwork. You got Yeti spying on Frankenstein, getting heart tattoos. That is pretty cool artwork. Now, of course, Ghostricks have to scare people, and that's where Ghostrick Scare comes into play. Now, Ghostrick Scare is a normal trap that states that you can target any number of face-down defense position monsters you control and change them to face-up defense position, count the number of Ghostrick monsters among them, and if you do, change up to that many face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position, minimum 1. This is a must-have in Ghostricks because it's real easy to get several Ghostricks out on the field, and then you can flip all your opponent's monsters to face down. It is really good to stop your opponent from attacking. It is a real good way to get your opponent's monsters face down so you can attack them directly. And furthermore, the artwork is just pretty cool. You got the Lantern scaring Specter. It's pretty cool artwork. I love it. But I would definitely run this as a deck set in my Ghostrick deck if I ever made one. And it's just an all-around great card. You know, even if you're running some sort of Ghostrick hybrid, it's a great card to have because, you know, it can just stop your opponent's monsters from attacking. And you get to choose which monsters you flip face down. So you can flip all their big boss monsters face down and leave their little weak ones behind. Now, a true ghost is not a true ghost unless it has the ability to vanish. Hence, Ghostrick Vanish. Ghostrick Vanish is the last of the normal trap cards for the deck, and its effect states you can reveal one Ghostrick monster in your hand. This turn, Ghostrick cards you control and face down defense position monsters you control cannot be targeted by or be destroyed by card effects. So, as the name implies, it allows your Ghostricks to vanish so they can't be destroyed by card effects. So, I would definitely run this in Ghostricks. It is a must-have because it protects your Ghostricks from destruction, like Regekis, Dark Holes, Torrential Tributes, pretty much anything that destroys. Ring of Destruction, any destruction effects. Now, the artwork on this card, I love the artwork. It has Alucard in a cemetery, kind of halfway vanished, halfway visible in front of his mansion. No, it's pretty cool artwork. I love the card. You definitely need to run it in Ghostrick. First of the two continuous traps is Ghostrick Night. Now, Ghostrick Night is a must-have for Ghostricks. Its effect states that while a Ghostrick monster is on the field, your opponent cannot flip summon. And when this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to your graveyard, your opponent cannot declare attacks for the rest of this turn. So as long as this is face up, you can just flip all your opponent's monsters face down, and then your opponent's locked out. Unless they tribute summon, their monsters are not going anywhere, because face down monsters can't be used for synchros, they can't be used for Xyz. Fusion summons they can be used for, but primarily people Xyz and synchro summon these days. You don't see a lot of fusions unless you're doing something like Shadalls, Cyber Dragon, or Fright Furs, Fluffles, stuff like that. And you don't really see those decks very often these days. So this is a really great card to just shut your opponent down from attacking and give you major advantage. The artwork on this card is not the best artwork. It looks like you got a couple Ghostricks playing a prank on the other Ghostricks there. But still, it's a great card to have for a Ghostrick deck. Every time I see this card, that song goes through my head. I can't help it. It just does. But the final trap card for the Ghostrick lineup and the final card period for the Ghostrick lineup is Ghostrick Go Round. This continuous trap says that once per turn during the battle phase, you can activate one of these effects. The first effect is that you can target one Ghostrick monster you control, change that target to face down defense position, and if you do, change one face down defense position monster your opponent controls to face up attack position. The second effect says that you can target one face down defense position monster you control, change that target to face up attack position, and if it is a Ghostrick monster, change one face up monster your opponent controls to face down defense position. Now, the downside of this card is you can only use one of those effects per turn. Now, if you have 2 of these on the field, you can use both of them, 1 for each one, but still, ideally you want to use the second effect because you know what Ghostricks you have on the field, and you will be able to stop your opponent's monsters from attacking. Furthermore, I love the artwork on this card. You got the Ghostricks going around in a revolving door. It's great artwork, and I highly recommend using this in Ghostrick decks. And with that being said, I will leave you with this. Well, I hope you liked the video. It is longer than I usually make them. I usually try to keep it under 25 minutes. But this is a special edition because, you know, the Halloween season and everything. I had to do a breakdown about the Ghostricks. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments in the section below. If there's an archetype you want to see on the breakdown, make sure you tell me. I would love to hear it. Also, I'm thinking about doing a Q&A section on my channel as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I would love to answer them. Also, tell your friends about the channel. I love seeing new views. I love seeing new subscribers even more than I love seeing people viewing my videos and liking my videos. Now, I love seeing the like buttons too, but I would really love those subscribers. Like I said, I want to get up to at least 500 subscribers within the next 3 months. So I really need people to get that word out about my channel. Until next time, this is Harpy Hunter 89 saying Happy Halloween.